And welcome to the Howard Eskin Show, as we are live on Wednesday evening at 7:30 Eastern Time. I've got the winner we had last week, and I'll get to that, was in Chicago, I think, was in Chicago. And then there's people all over the world that send me messages. But on Eastern Time, live on Wednesday night at 7:30, live on Saturday morning at 8 o'clock, and then seen forever on the social media platforms. And if you subscribe to YouTube, you'll always be notified when I'm doing the show live. Today, a very special guest, a Hall of Famer, with the Hall of Fame game coming up tomorrow. Eric Allen, congratulations, going into the Hall of Fame this weekend. The Hall of Fame game is tomorrow, but I don't want to deal with that. I'll deal with Merrill Reese shortly. But first, and there's a lot of other things that I do want to talk about today. What Bryce Harper did to the commissioner. I want to talk about that later. I got some information on Joel Embiid, which will blow you away. I mean, it's ridiculous. I'll tell you that. So anyway, let me also tell you the presenting sponsor of the Howard Eskin Show is a terrific company and a terrific guy, Stillwell Financial Advisors. And I'll tell you, this guy really knows his stuff. I actually had lunch with him, with Jeff today, and we talk about a lot of things, sports, about a lot of things, about what he's doing, and he gives me some advice on investments, and I really learned a lot today. I'm telling you, if you have any wealth you want to invest, Jeff Stillwell's the guy, and you can get in touch with him. 732-343-0813, 732-343-0813. Jeff Stillwell is really, really sharp, and you will totally appreciate his knowledge of everything that's done. So we're going to talk the Eagles into their second week of camp. Finally, pads this week, and I'll talk to Merrill Reese about that. I mean, it's just, as Cam Jurgens said, no pads, 7-on-7s. When you keep stats for that, you are wasting not only your time, but everybody's time. So, but there's a difference, and it's still training camp, and we'll see what happens. But we'll get Merrill to talk about that. But before we get to Merrill, and there's a lot of things, obviously, that I have questions about Merrill. And if you have any questions for Merrill, and I can ask, just go to the chat line. And when I see the question, if I think it's good enough, I will ask Merrill along with the questions that I have. But right now, I want to talk about our sponsors, and they're really important to the show. Stillwell Financial Advisors is, and so is Audi Westchester. Very important to the show. I'm telling you, a fun experience. I stopped over there again this week, and I'm telling you, I see so many new vehicles coming into the dealership. It's fun looking for a new, shopping for a new car. And this is only good till the end of the month, and we're almost at the end of the month. This deal is a great deal. A new 2025 Audi A3 Quattro for only $439 a month, or a new 2025 Audi A5 Sportback for only $529 a month. All you need is $2,500 down, plus taxes and registration fees, to lease the new 2025 Audi A3 Quattro or the Audi A5 Sportback. 36 months, 7,500 miles. The location, 1421 Wilmington Pike. You want to have some fun, have a cup of coffee, have some snacks, talk to the people, look at the cars. It's a fun experience, and you will enjoy it. The new 2025 Audi A3, great deal, $439 a month. And the new 2025 Audi A5, $529 a month. Check it out, AudiWestchester.com. And you've probably waited too long to have your pool for this season, but that doesn't mean you should not make that decision now. You might get a little bit by the end of the summer, but you'll certainly be ready for next summer. And Piazza Property Pros can do more than pool installation and make your property really special. Renovations, whatever, in-ground pools, pool renovation, whatever it is, Piazza Property Pros, and they are experts, 25 years of experience. They don't subcontract, so they do it themselves. they'll bring your vision into a reality. So whether it's excavation, hardscaping, fencing, landscaping, pool maintenance, whatever it is, they can help you out. Piazza Property Pros, exceptional results. They'll work within your budget. Here's a number: 610 566 2608. That's 610 566 2608 or piazzaoutdoor.com. All right. A lot of football to talk about. And we want to talk about it with a guy that's been doing this he's been doing it long before going into his 49th year with doing play by play for the Eagles. And that would be Merrill Reese. Merrill, how are you today?
I am well, Howard. How are you?
Just another day in paradise, Merrill. But paradise around here, around the Philadelphia area, is hot with no palm trees. You get palm trees, you understand it. You need some palm trees out there. Just get a few palm trees. And
I will take this over winter any day.
Well, I'll take it over rain too. So I'll take that over, and certainly over winter. But coming into this coming season, you will be doing your 49th season as the Eagles play-by-play guy. You've won the Pete Rozelle Award at the Hall of Fame, Football Hall of Fame. You're in the Eagles Hall of Fame, and I know there's others, but a memorable and illustrious career. And you've watched a lot of football. And in that time, Merrill, there's been some bad football. There's been some really bad football. I know you like to forget about that, but how much more of a pleasure is to do the games now than watching bad football that we all watched years ago?
Well, it's a lot more fun. Although I always love watching football. I always love broadcasting football. I mean, you and I go back to when you were the spotter and we were doing the Penn games,
Oh yeah, I remember that. Early '70s,
traveling
Merrill.
through at the Ivy League.
Oh my
So,
God. The bus trips up to Vermont. You gotta
oh,
be kidding me.
that's right.
I know.
Hanover, New Hampshire, up to Dartmouth.
Yeah, I know. Crazy. It's just crazy. It's just we go back a long way, but it's fun, and it's gotta be something when you got into this and you were doing the play by play for Penn for the Penn games in the early '70s, and then you finally started doing the Eagles in what '77. What was it that drove you for you to be a person that does play by play for football? What was it that drove you?
Well, that started a long time, Howard. When I was about 8 or 9, my dream was to be an NFL quarterback.
Wow,
But
boy.
I knew by 10th grade that that wasn't going to happen. But I as a kid, as a little kid, I listened to games on the radio. I would listen to Penn games on the radio when it was Byram Psalm.
Oh
I
yeah.
listened to Bill Campbell do the Eagles, and it was my dream to really be a play-by-play broadcaster. Now, people say, well, and I've heard people that I was friendly with say, Merrill would play ball with us and he'd be announcing the game or he'd be calling the game off television. No, none of that is true. When I played ball, I played ball. When I watched the game on TV, I did not practice doing any of that. But in my mind, when my dad took me out to Franklin Field to see the Eagles, I would look up while the team was in the huddle. I would look up and stare at Bill Campbell and say, that's where I want to be one day. Now,
Wow.
the truth of the matter is, when you go into a career like this, you don't say, number one, I want to do play by play football,
Mm.
or number two, I want to be the Eagles announcer. You go in, and I majored in communications, as you know, at Temple. I was sports director of the student station on
Yep.
WRTI, did millions of Big Five basketball games because we did them all on our station because we had a line at the Palestra. And I did Temple football and I did baseball. I did all of that stuff. So my goal is to be a play by play broadcaster. And then it just so happened that I'm doing the team that I love the most and I'm doing the sport that I love the most.
And football, obviously, when you said you wanted to be a quarterback, football was your sport. But um, when people go into something new, uh, and well, actually, you did play by play, so I can't say you did something new for the Eagles. But obviously, when you started doing the Eagles, how nervous were you, if at all? Even though you did play by play, you're now made the step to the NFL. Was there any nerves, or how much? How nervous were you?
Howard, I'm nervous every Sunday. I am nervous before every game that I broadcast. I wake up on a Sunday morning and I can feel it in the pit of my stomach. And you know, from being at the hotel, I have a stack of pancakes. And the reason is because I can't look at food once we get to the stadium. That's how nervous I feel until Joe McPeak actually cues me. And then it all goes away and I feel like I'm in a zone. But when I wake up, because I've got I've got all of these numbers in my head. I prepare all week. I look at game tape. I study tendencies. I put in hours and hours and hours of preparation. And it's the same feeling that a student has when he goes into a final exam. You know, you hope it all comes out at the right time. But the nervousness that I felt on day one, which was I did the last two games of the '77 season when Charlie died, and the nervousness that I felt that day. All right, it was huge because of the
Right.
circumstance, but believe me, when I arrive at the stadium on a game day, I feel it in the pit of my stomach until I actually get the cue.
You know what? It's kind of interesting you said that. Uh, when I first started doing radio talk shows, I was a little nervous going into the show, and then I got comfortable because I'm just talking to people about what I know. So I got more comfortable. But then when I did TV, every sportscast that I went into, it's interesting. I felt the same thing. I felt nerves before I sat down when I went to TV and did that. And then when I was working the games with you, right before, probably 10 minutes to 15 minutes before I did my first report before the game for you guys, I was nervous then too, because you want to
Sure.
start it off like, the right way with.
You care. You care. You talk to the great athletes. You talk to. I guarantee you, Bryce Harper is feels that nervousness before every Phillies game, or Ron Jaworski would tell you how nervous he was. And I don't. I'm sure Jalen Hurts, even though he seems so settled and even, every one of them, they feel it before a game. If you're not nervous, something else will happen. Then you're going to be you're not ready. You're not ready to go.
I know you were a little pissed when they didn't have pancakes on the menu. Every once in a while, the
Well,
restaurant there didn't have
I
pancakes.
I, I was in trouble.
I remember that. Well, where are the pancakes? Well, they're
Uh,
not on the menu.
because they fill me up and I don't need. I don't touch food from the time I leave the house or the hotel until the game is over. Mike eats right through the broadcast, but
Uh,
I can't
yeah,
look
how
at
did
food.
Mike?
I can't look at food until it's over.
Yeah, how did Mike? All right, so I'm going to give away a little secret, and I'm not on the booth, but I know it goes after the third quarter. You have a diet soda, right?
Or a regular soda.
Or a regular soda. Okay, you have soda
Yeah,
after the third
yeah,
quarter. So
yeah.
that's what you get to keep you going for that exciting fourth quarter. All right, let's take a look at the team now. The first week, it's great that they're back and all those kind of things, but no pads and 7-on-7s, and that they know what they're doing right and wrong. But the people that watch them say, "Oh, what a great pass!" Well, there's nobody defending anybody, And then the defenses are different. But now this week, they started out with pads when they came back to practice. When you look at this team, we know that the Eagles are probably, as we look at it right now, the best team in the NFC. Uh, you know,
Going into the season.
right? Okay, but how difficult do you think it is to to do to accomplish what you did last year and win another winning a Super Bowl? It doesn't happen that much. That's why there's a lot of different teams that win it, other than the Patriots when they were cheating with Tom Brady, and they won them. But how difficult do you think it is knowing that the Eagles, even though the Eagles we know are the best team in the NFC?
Well, they're the best team in the NFC and the best team in the NFL going into the season as of
Right.
September 4th at that night. Now, see, I've revised my thinking. I love Nick Sirianni. I think he's a
I
fine
do too.
coach.
Yep.
But for these first few, well, this will be his fifth year. But for the first 4 years, I didn't like what he did, particularly during the summer. because there was no tackling, no real tackling to the ground. There was no hitting. I thought Dan Campbell in Detroit had it right because they hit. And I also felt that Nick should play some of the regulars during the preseason games, even if it were for a couple of series just to get them in sync. And he didn't. He didn't let Jalen Hurts anywhere near the field. And then you go into the season, and let's face it, the first four games are sloppy. They
Yes.
look kind of like preseason games
Yep.
because they are what preseason games used to be. But here's the thing that changed my mind. Dan Campbell, with all those things he did, went into the playoffs. And when they met the Commanders, when they played Washington in the playoffs, they had 18 players on injured reserve
Yep.
and they got destroyed. And the Eagles had all 22 starters ready to go. The only one who got hurt, and he got hurt in the second game of the preseason of the playoffs, was N'Kobe Dean. He tore the patella tendon against the Rams.
Yep.
But other than that, this was a totally healthy team, which was a very important reason that they were able to do and accomplish what they did. So I've revised my thinking. This is not years past when they had all these preseason games. And when I first started, the first full year I started, I had done the last two games of the 77 season,
Right.
then was hired full time, but for 78. Do you know that the Eagles had seven preseason games? There were
Really?
six preseason games, and they added on the Hall of Fame game that year.
Oh, I
They
didn't
had
realize that.
seven preseason games, and then 14 regular season games. And you know as well as I, it's only a matter of maybe next year where they go to 18
Oh
regular
yeah, for
season games,
sure.
and they'll cut back to two preseason games. So it's totally different. And what Nick is doing is right. What Nick is doing is right. He's realizing how important it is to have that team in healthy rather than in ship shape, ready to roll. And that will come. That will come as the season goes on. But the big thing is stay healthy because the Eagles were 14-3 last year. And I think you can take a 14-3 team, and if they have the wrong three or four injuries at the wrong time of the season, they could be a 9-8 team or an 8-9 team,
Yeah,
something like that.
injuries are the biggest part of a
Injuries are
season.
the biggest part of it. That's why when people say, this team's going to do it again, well, we hope so. And as of September 4th, they will have that capability, but nobody knows.
You know what? One of the chats here, one of the people said Pat Milligan. Only 50% of Super Bowl champions repeat. It's so difficult. There's so many different things. Even
Hmm.
though you have 17 games, there's so many different things that could happen
Yes.
that figure into it. Injuries are one of them, and it depends on which position, what players step up. Zach Bond had a year that nobody expected. And he had a great Super Bowl. I don't know that he wasn't the MVP in the Super Bowl, but not here nor there. It's okay that
But
Jalen.
he was great. He was
Yeah, it was
outstanding.
terrific. So you got to hope that guys like that. Okay, he was a big part of their defense, especially at linebacker. So you got to hope those kind of things happen. You hope Jordan Davis, who's now coming into, is now in better shape. And he says because he's 25, he makes himself sound like he was an old man at 25
Yeah.
years old. So and he lost 26 pounds to get to 330, which is wow. But whatever. But he's in better shape and he's got a better frame of mind and discipline
Yes.
to
Yes.
play. So those are going to be better. But you worry about the linebacking situation, the players they lost, but the Eagles know what they're doing. So those kind of things. How much does players the expectations that you have for a player because of what he did last year and the players that you don't have expectations for figure into what this team's going to do this year?
Well, I think when you mention Zach Bond, you should have the expectation that he can repeat
Yep.
and be as good as he was last year because he is an outstanding player,
Absolutely.
and Vic Fangio knew exactly how to use him. And he's smart, he's in shape, he's a hard worker. So his curve should, I mean, his status should remain the same. Maybe he'll even get a little bit better because he has another year starting at inside linebacker. I think you watch a Cooper DeJean, you watch a Quinyon Mitchell. These were uncanny for rookies. The way they play, they play like veterans.
Yep.
They're only going to get better. And I think that you talk about practice, we don't see hitting, but you can see right away the athleticism that this Jihad Campbell has. And the only reason he was available was because he was coming off
Injury.
of an injury.
Right.
But he is, I mean, he is a great big upgrade. And the things you can do with him, he's really, you can see that right now. But as far as the wide receivers are concerned, they've got the best. There's not a better pair in the
Probably
National
not.
Football League
No.
than AJ Brown and Devontae Smith, and the guy who's underrated and who will probably be used more this year is. I mean, there's no doubt about the fact that when you look at Jahan Dotson, I mean, Jahan Dotson is a talented player. He got them going at the beginning of the Super Bowl with a long reception. He's got great hands. He's got great speed. They've got a trio of wide receivers, and then you add Dallas Goddard. You've got weapons, and then Jalen Hurts is really coming into his prime.
Yep. And I just want to tell people that I'm going to have a question with something that Merrill has said. So you can win a Chickies and Pete's gift certificate, and I'm going to have that for you. So, listen, and you come up with the answer, and you'll submit it before our show on Saturday to my website, howardeskin.com, and you can win a gift certificate to Chickies and Pete's. But the thing that I really look at with this team, with that, I mean, we know that Saquon Barkley is terrific. We know that Jalen Hurts is playing really well. We know their wide receivers are really good, but their offensive line has to stay healthy. Lane
Yeah,
Johnson is the best right tackle in football. I don't care. I mean, I think you would agree with that. And was he hurt for a couple of games last year?
yeah,
He's got to stay healthy. And Jordan Mailata is playing great. His presence in the locker room, his play on the field, those are two key positions.
yes.
They've got to stay healthy on that offensive
Sure
line
they
to be
do. Sure they
successful.
do. Absolutely. I mean, they've got a little depth, but when you're talking about two of the best tackles, maybe the best pair of tackles in football, and they definitely have the best offensive line coach in football in Stout. I mean, they're a great offensive line. But again, when I said you take four pieces away from this team, and if one of them is one of the bookend tight offensive linemen, offensive tackles, you're hurting. You're hurt. You look, Howard, the statistics of how the Eagles have done when Lane Johnson isn't in the lineup, and they're very revealing.
Who would you think? Okay, you look at a player. Saquon Barkley had an unbelievable year. Jalen Hurts did everything that he was asked to do, but with the offensive line and with the way Saquon runs, that I think obviously helps Jalen. He doesn't have to throw 30 some passes a game. So there's less chance for a turnover. Who do you, if you had to look at a player, you say, I'm looking for a good year or we need a good year from this player, excluding the quarterback, and everybody knows the quarterback.
Sure.
Who would you look at?
Other than Saquon,
Yes. And Saquon, we know because he's got to stay healthy. Like everybody's
well,
got to stay healthy. And
I
if there's it's not a
well,
fringe player,
I'll
but a
give
good
you
player.
one. I'll give
Okay.
you one. Jalen Carter. Jalen Carter is the reason that this team got past the Rams. Howard, we're doing that game, and Saquon Barkley in the fourth quarter scores a touchdown, and I said, "There goes the dagger," and that's
Hmm.
the dagger, and I felt they were in, and then my phone, which I never look at during the game, starts to buzz and buzz and buzz and buzz, and you know that Matthew Stafford was one touchdown pass away at the end of that game from beating the Eagles and knocking them out of the playoffs. But Jalen Carter came up with that huge sack of Stafford, and the whole thing changed right there. After the game ended, I looked at my phone, and there were 5 messages from my wife, Cindy, and they all said, "Stop it, stop it. Stop it! Stop it! Stop it!" She thought I jinxed them when Saquon Barkley scored. And you can't assume anything. You can't
No.
assume anything. Now that's why I was careful in the Super Bowl. At halftime, the score was 24-0, and my son Nolan was in the booth, and he slipped me a note, and he said, "Dad, don't forget, the Falcons led the Patriots 28-3." So I didn't say anything about the Eagles having it locked up. But when they came out after that 2 hour halftime show, they came out in the third quarter, and Andy Reid's team went 1, 2, 3 and out. I said they don't have any answers.
Hey,
You
the
you could
game.
feel
Wait a
it.
minute.
Then you
Okay.
knew.
Hold it, Merrill. The game was over at 24-0.
It
Let's
it,
see. It was
it
over. And what happened in the Atlanta game? Uh, uh, Kyle Shanahan went brain dead. Okay, he's up by 8. They're on the 21-yard. I'll never forget this because I've been to 42 Super Bowls. So I was there, and Matt Ryan, I was rooting for him so badly because I got to know Matt really well. Obviously, played high school football in
sure.
Philadelphia, so know him and his family. And I was rooting for him so badly. And he calls a pass play. Calls a pass play on the. All they have to do is kick a field, run 3 plays, kick a field goal, up 11 with about 7 minutes left. The game is over.
Should have been.
Yeah, and Kyle Shanahan calls it. He's trying to be cute. So that's the reason. Hey, listen, the Patriots didn't win 2 of those Super Bowls. Atlanta lost it, and Seattle lost it.
Sure.
So things. But let's get back to the player that you think has to be probably the most important, other than the quarterback and Saquon Barkley. We understand all that. Is Jalen Carter because he sets up that whole defensive line. Would I
Yeah.
agree with your assessment there?
I that's what I believe. I think Jalen Carter is now he's I'm not going to start saying the best, I'm not going to start making ridiculous comparisons and call him the next Reggie White or any of those things, but he is a great impact defensive lineman. He can really spearhead the whole defense.
Yeah, and it done a great job. The young players won a Super Bowl in their first year. Quinion Mitchell, we'll just look at the two in the defensive secondary, and Cooper DeJean. I mean, Cooper was all over the place. Great
Yeah.
guy and a hell of a player. And he got to the second round because he was hurt his last year in college. So the Eagles don't care about injuries. They check it out and they don't care about drafting players that were injured in their final
But
year in college.
sometimes that fails because a couple of years ago, you remember Sidney Jones, who was considered to be a high first round draft choice, tore
Yes,
his
I remember.
Achilles in his pro day workout. The Eagles drafted him in the second round and thought, we've got a steal, wait till he's ready. And he hasn't produced for anybody yet.
No, it's just it really is it really is amazing. But I worry about the young players being so caught up, and I'll say the stardom. They probably didn't have to pay for a meal. They were hugged by everybody loves you. You got to get over that. But I don't know that Nick Sirianni's doing it the right way. I'm going to play this comment from Nick Sirianni, and I have my opinion. I want you to give me your opinion, Nick Sirianni, because the whole uh, storyline this year, we're not defending champions. We got to come out and play this year and not worry about last year, and that's been drilled into the player's head. But I got some, and I don't think Nick knew how to answer this question. But let's listen to this, and then we'll comment on it.
Nothing that you do in the past. Now you can look back at your past experiences and learn from them, but no one like this isn't this isn't boxing where it's like you're the champ until someone takes your belt away. No, this is football. Everyone starts off 0-0, and I think two mistakes that you could make is
Howard, he's speechless.
resting on your laurels and or looking too far ahead, right? Thinking too much about the past, or looking too far ahead. I mean, that's been our mindset since day one. Has been be where your feet are, be focused on that, because nothing that we did is going to influence anything that we want
you
to do
can't
in
blame
the
him for
future.
what
So
he's
it is about the
saying.
daily
Yes,
work,
I can.
regardless if you're coming off of
He's not saying a thing.
a 9-8 season,
Correct.
a 14-3 season, an 11-6
Well, you
season,
can
or a
paraphrase
14-3
it.
season. It's the work that you put in that is going to get you ready for the games here. So we don't. Again, that's just been our mindset. I don't think anything's changed. I don't think that it's, hey, I decided to do this this year with this message. No, this has been the consistent message all the way through, and that's just where our focus.
Okay. All right. So here's the way I respond to that.
Well, what did he say?
Okay.
I didn't hear it.
No. Okay. Oh, you didn't hear Nick?
I didn't hear a word.
Oh, okay. He basically stammered and says, we're not, I'm paraphrasing, we're not defending champions. We start 0-0. We know all that. And he compared it to boxing. A boxer is a defending champion, but he comes out in the next round, he's defending champion. Well, the Eagles are coming back this year as defending champions. You can't get away from that. Now, if you want to emphasize the fact that you can't think about how good you were last year and you got to play just as well, if not better this year because people are coming after you, I accept that. But don't tell me you're not, you've heard all the players. Well, we're not defending champions. Yes, you are. You can't get away from that.
No,
you're the defending champions.
You're defending champions.
Yeah,
you're defending champions because you won last year.
Right.
You're defending champions. However, I think what they're all trying to say is don't live on your laurels.
That's great.
Don't live in the past. It's a new season. Go after it. Last year was last year. It's just semantics.
You know what I would say? You remember when Mike Tyson got beat by, who did he get beat by? It was an awful loss. And he was
Buster Douglas.
Yeah, Buster Douglas. Buster Douglas was horrible. He sucked as a fighter, but he beats him. And Mike Tyson was the defending champ because Mike just thought he could just waltz through it and just beat him that way. Use an example. Hey, look, Mike Tyson thought about he was the champion and it was going to be easy for him again. Use an example other than don't say we're not defending champions. I love Nick Sirianni and I love his messages to the players, but this message is such bullshit.
Well, the other thing is this. Well, forget about Dallas because Eagles Dallas is always entertaining and always emotional. But the second week of the season, Kansas City is going to play that like it's a playoff game because they narrowly beat them in the Super Bowl 2 years ago. The Eagles beat them on a Monday night in Kansas City in the rain. They beat them. They came from behind in the second half, and they beat them this time in the Super Bowl. They annihilated them. So they're going to come out thinking that, everybody, the fact that they are the Super Bowl champions, call them defending, just call them the Super Bowl champions, that is going to add as a motivator to every other team.
I'm telling you the first words, not out of your mouth, and I don't know who the game. I don't know if it'll be on CBS. And if it's on CBS, it'll probably be Jim Nantz. If it's on, it's Fox. Okay, so it might be their top team. It might be, Kevin Burkhardt.
Kevin Burkhardt.
One of the first words out of his mouth is, "The Eagles are defending champions of the Super Bowl, and they beat Kansas City." They beat Kansas City. It's going to come out. It's going to come out all year in big games. It's reality. You can't. But to emphasize, hey, listen, I don't want you guys thinking about last year. This is a new season, and we got to play our rear ends off again this year. And don't worry about last year. Last year's last year. But to say that we're not defending champions. Well, yes, you are. You are defending champions. Okay. Well,
sure,
he tries to throw all that,
but
he stumbled at the beginning of the comment. He didn't know what to say. And I love Nick, and I think he's got a great personality. He's really sharp and really bright, and his messages 99.9% of the time to the players really hit home. I don't care if it's growing flowers. I don't care. He gets players to listen, but the Eagles are defending champions, and that's okay. That's okay, because nobody will forget that. Nobody will forget Super Bowl 52. Nobody will forget Super Bowl 59, because those are memories that last forever. Super Bowl 52, I'm not going to take anything away from last year, but the fact that it was 24-0 takes a little suspense. And Super Bowl 52, every play meant something. It was unbelievable, right down to the last play. And that will never leave your mind, and will never leave my mind. That last play, when that ball's up in the air, you're just, wow, right down to the last second. Unbelievable. See, that's what.
Yeah.
So the Eagles came back next year. Well, you can't worry, you won the Super Bowl, but whatever. All right, let me move on. Your memorable moments have to be. We could probably spend a week on your memorable moments with the Eagles. If you can look at maybe 3 of them, what do you think they would be?
Well, let's take away
Okay.
the
All right.
2 Super Bowls. Okay, because obviously these 2 Super Bowls, the way they ended, would be the number 1 and the number 2 because of the significance. I mean, yes, as you put it, the drama of Super Bowl 52 and the annihilation of Super. We could
Yep.
celebrate the whole second half because the Eagles were really letting Kansas City have it, and Patrick Mahomes looked like he wanted to go home. So those were right up there. But my number 1 moment of all the games I've done, my number 1 moment occurred on December 19th, 2010,
Oh
at
my
Giant
gosh, I remember
Stadium.
that.
The Eagles were so bad that at halftime I said, whatever the score was, I think I said the score is the Giants 23, the Eagles are
Yeah.
still at the
I
hotel.
think it was 31.
And
Was it
then in
31
the
to 10,
second half,
Merrill, in like the end of third quarter, beginning of fourth quarter?
At one point,
Yeah.
it was something like that. Yes, but in the second half, the Eagles came out. I still say Michael Vick played the best 30 minutes of
Right.
quarterbacking I ever saw, and he starts out and he hits Brent Selleck over the middle for a 64-yard catch and run for a touchdown. Then, do you remember what happened next? They had an onside kick and recovered by Riley
I
Cooper,
don't remember that. Wow.
and off they went again, and they scored. And Jeremy Maclin had a bunch of touchdowns, and Michael Vick ran all over the place, completed passes all over, and then scored from 10 yards out on a quarterback draw, and then brought them back again and tied it. Well, brought them within a point with a pass to Jeremy Maclin inside the left pylon. Now they kick the extra point and it's tied, and they have to stop
Right.
the Giants one more time, which they did. And then Matt Dodge goes back to punt, and Mike says, there is no way they are going to punt this to Deshaun Jackson, but they did, and somehow or other
Yep.
he muffed the punt, which threw off the timing
Uh-huh.
of the whole pursuit. He picks it up. Jason Avant levels somebody downfield, and Deshaun takes it to the 1 yard line
I
and
know.
starts to dance around. I've watched that so many times on replay, and there seems to be a guy who has an angle on him.
You
I
worried.
Every time I
Yeah.
see it, I think they're going to get him. Yeah, but he gets
Okay.
in and they win. To me, that was the greatest, the most
Okay. I'm
amazing
going to
ending
tell
I've
you a
ever
couple of
seen.
stories about that game. During the week, Deshaun Jackson and I started to talk about, all right, how many punt returns are you going to have for touchdowns this year? So he told me at the beginning of that season, 2. So before that game, during the week at practice, I'm talking to him outside the locker room. I says, Deshaun, you've got 0 punt returns for touchdowns this year. 0. And you told me you would have 2. He says, I'll get one on Sunday. It's obviously just talking out. He says, I'll get one on Sunday. Then I find out after the game, and I forget who the player was, and I wouldn't out him anyway, in the Giants locker room, that heard Tom Coughlin come up to Matt Dodge. He says, after that, I'm going to cut you. I told you to kick it out of bounds. I'm going to cut you. So I went on the air the next day on the talk show, and the PR guy that was there, who's now with the Cleveland Browns, called me up the next day. He says, well, Tom Coughlin never said that. He's trying to stem it because he's not going to cut him. I said, I'm going to tell you, and he's a great guy. I forget his name. Great guy. And I said, he did say that. And I'm telling you,
Is that
no,
Aaron
it's got
Sorkin?
3 names. Oh, man, he's with the Cleveland Browns right now. Why do I forget his name? He's such a great guy, but it slips me for the time being. But he was with the Giants at the time. So he calls me. And I said, I'm telling you, he told him that. I mean, I have an eyewitness. He told him that. So that's the second part of that. And the part of that I love, the pictures you've seen where all the Giants players are lined up on the Giants sideline chasing Deshaun Jackson, the way the picture was shot, and Tom Coughlin getting ready to slam down his clipboard. That is Merrill, that's a great moment. That really is a great moment because
Oh,
that wasn't the first miracle in the Meadowlands. That was
that was Mike. Mike goes, Miracle in the Meadowlands,
right. Okay.
number
And
two.
it's just, we talked to Herm Edwards and I found out some backstory of that. Were you doing the games yet okay.
Yes. Yes, that was my first full year. You know what the funny thing was? I'm going to tell you the funniest thing. The 3 greatest comebacks. I mean, that was miracle number 1. That was November 19th,
Right.
1978. The other one was the Brian
Yep.
Westbrook punt return against the Giants when they flipped everything. Jeff Fiegels was the
Yeah.
punter and he got leveled. And that was I don't even know the year. That was October 19th. The first one was November 19th, and the one we just spoke about was December 19th, and all
Yeah.
3
Do you
were at
know on
Giant
the Miracle in
Stadium.
the Meadowlands from Herm Edwards, Dick Vermeil never saw the touchdown live? I think I
I
mentioned
know.
that to you when I
I
saw
know.
you at that golf tournament.
Yeah.
It's just, it's amazing some of the things. All right. You mentioned Mike Quick, that memorable moment, and I'll never forget that either. That game in the Meadowlands. Yeah, you exclude the Super Bowls. That's an unbelievable the way they came back and the way Deshaun scored at the end on the last play of the game. It was great. Your partner in the booth, you mentioned Mike Quick. You've had different partners. Tell me what it's like to work with, and we both know Mike, what it's like to work with Mike Quick in the booth.
It's hanging out with a friend. And Mike puts tremendous preparation in during the week, and I study like crazy during the week. But the goal is for people to think there are 2 friends hanging out and just enjoying the game. But there's a lot that goes on in that booth with hand signals and spotters and Joe McPeak putting
Joe.
cards in my hand to read of all the things that go on. But Mike is a great guy, and he really, really never came to the booth and said, "Hey, I'm a 6-time or a 5-time All Pro, so I can just show up." He absolutely does all the preparation, and he's one of the most easygoing people I've ever met, and
Yeah, and
he's a great
he
friend.
rolls with it. He analyst. Obviously, when I was on the sidelines with you guys, I'd hear everything. I'd hear the entire broadcast, and I'd obviously listen to it intently because there might be some things that you guys said that I might be able to help. I could have helped you with, but the way you guys mesh is really good. Mike doesn't get in the way, and I know it's important for you, and it's something that I learned at the beginning when I give a report. I got to be out of that so you can set up the play. Mike knew that from working years with you before that I got there, and it's just he just fits. I mean, Stan Walters fit. Stan was a great guy. He understood it, but it's not
Right.
easy. It's not. It's not an easy job to work with you, Merrill. But I say that with all due respect because you got to know when to get out and you got to condense your thoughts, make them succinct, get your point across. it's some of the hardest things to do during a football. It's not a baseball game where you got 5 minutes between pitches. I'm being sarcastic.
But and I'm not talking. I think the Phillies guys
Oh,
do a great
radio, I
job
think
on
is great.
radio and
Yeah.
television. But I think the truth of the matter is, I've been in the car and I've heard some college
Mhm.
games from around the country, and you hear the play-by-play man and the color man
Yep.
talking at the same time. When two people talk at the same time, you actually hear nothing. You hear a jumble.
I
It's nothing. But Mike is a very
Yeah,
professional
very
broadcaster.
good. And
Very
the
professional.
fact that, obviously when you work together, you become, and you were friends before that, you work together and you become friendly. When I had
Yeah.
Mike on the podcast here, he was great. We talked about things, and you're just reliving some of the things, but you're talking about the experiences, and they're all good. I mean, they're all good because it's football and you're doing what you want to do. And yeah, and
Oh, it's
it's
fun.
really enjoyable. But to know that it's not easy, and you said you hear it when you're driving around the country, it's not easy for a color analyst to mesh with the play-by-play guy. It's not always easy, and you got to know when to get out, and you got to get out. But it's what's not easy is to condense your thoughts. If I'm doing something, and I know all of a sudden they're coming up to the line of scrimmage, and when I was doing it, I said, "Got to condense your thoughts, make your point, and get out of it." And that's what Mike does too. And Mike does that really
Right.
well. Really, really well. Yeah. So
Oh, he
I,
does.
I respect,
He really does.
obviously, I respect both you guys, but I certainly respect Mike a lot. All right. So, everybody, this is just nonsense. When people, you don't even know what the final roster is going to be. But here, I'm going to give you your chance to do what the fans do. Your record for this team this year, which is really tough.
I you know
Well, just give me the number of wins.
we picked it in the booth last year after the last preseason game.
Yeah.
Joe gives us cards. Now you're down on the field, but he gives me a card, Mike a card, Billy Morndell a card, Terry Small, our statistician, a card, and we picked the order of finish in the NFC East with the records. And I won last year by picking the Eagles to win it with a 14-3 record, which was exactly what they had. But this year, the
Ooh,
schedule is
yes.
going to be tougher. And I'm not saying they won't finish on top, but I think they would be closer to 11-6
Okay.
than
And you know
14
what?
and
11
3.
and 6 might still win the division. The only team I think, yeah, the only
Oh,
team
I
I
think
think
it
they have to
would.
worry about is Washington, because the Cowboys always find a way to screw it up, and the Giants suck. It's just so I think it's just the Eagles and Washington. Herm Edwards loves Daniels, loves their quarterback. He had him for 2 years at
Oh,
Arizona State.
he's
Yep,
look, he did a great job. But again,
yep,
everybody has tape on him now, and he may not find it as easy with
yep.
teams
And
being
you know
better
that,
prepared.
and the team, the biggest challenger in the NFC. So you're going to say 11 wins for the Eagles. The biggest challenger in the NFC for the Eagles.
Should be
Yep.
Detroit.
Okay. I think the Rams, if Stafford stays healthy, will be good. But the Eagles get a break because they play both LA and Detroit in Philadelphia. Yeah. So
In
that's really,
Philadelphia. But last year they played the Rams in Los
yeah.
Angeles and
Well,
killed
yeah.
them.
I remember that game.
Saquon rushed for like
Yeah.
500 yards in that game. I
Yeah.
mean, he
It's
went
just, hey,
crazy.
listen, I like close games because there's more intensity, just more exciting. Yeah.
Oh, I agree. I agree. Except in this Super Bowl, I
All
enjoyed
right.
this one
Hey,
being a
Merrill,
runaway.
I really, really do appreciate it's always fun. I had fun working with you. Uh, Even though once in a while I went a little too long in my report and you jumped in and I knew, get your ass out of there. He's got to set up the play. Howard, get your ass out of there.
That's because you went on in the beginning and told us what Nick Sirianni said in the meeting the night before, and sometimes you went into the kickoff.
Well, they kicked it off too fast. I'm watching the officials. I would tell one of the officials, one time I told the official there were some bad calls, and you guys call him out on that. I told one of the officials, and they were from Philadelphia, and I've known him. I knew the guy. I says, I don't think you guys are having a good game. And he said, what do you mean? I said, so I pointed out 2 plays. And he looked at me and he just says, okay, I got to get back to the game. But I knew I had to get my ass out of there when I went too long. And it wasn't at the beginning. It was during a play where something happened whatever. I knew I had to get my ass out of there. But thanks, Merrill. It's always been fun, and I really do appreciate it. All right.
My
We'll have to
pleasure.
do this again sometime. All right, you
Take
too,
care.
Merrill. Merrill
Have a good
Reese,
night.
the Hall of Famer, going into his 49th year of doing Eagles games. And I'm going to have a question with one of the things that he said, to win a Chickies and Pete's gift certificate. So you got to listen. And now you can always go back if you miss certain things. Submit your entry by this Friday, which is August. Wow. Can you believe it's already August? August 1st. And I'll name the winner on Saturday. Out of the correct entries, we'll select somebody at random. And as always, you can watch us on X, Twitter, whatever you want to call it, Facebook, Instagram. Subscribe to YouTube. And when you do that, you're notified when the show comes on. And it's easy to find the shows. I see a comment here. I love the Eagles from a fan in Arizona. I'm telling you, people listen to me all over the country. So I have the Chickies and Pete's gift certificate. Somebody that won the last won a pair of Oakley sunglasses. Let me talk about that right now. And I got some things to say about Bryce Harper and about Joel Embiid, which, whatever. I think it's important you might listen. Denise Buemi, or Bomi, or Denise, I apologize because I don't know the pronunciation of your name. The question was, where is my bobblehead prominently displayed next to Hulk Hogan? And the answer was Delco Original Steaks in Dunedin, Florida. Denise, you won a pair of Oakley sunglasses, and I do appreciate your joining us. And I also want to tell you about our presenting sponsor, because today I had lunch with him. Actually, we really had a great time. We went to Panera Bread in Granite Run, and I always pop in there. I usually get cookies and stuff for people that I know at the bank, which is right across the street. And then when I've had people out, I've had people at lunch there. But it was Panera Bread. It was great there, and the Granite Run. But what Jeff and I talked about, besides enjoying lunch, is a lot about sports, a lot of sports things, and his advice on a lot of things to secure or help secure your financial future. And he can do that for you too. He absolutely can. Stillwell Financial Advisors, Jeff Stillwell, 732-343-0813. And I also want to tell you about our presenting sponsor is really important. Obviously, really, really, really important. But I also want to tell you about our other fine partners in this fine program, the Howard Eskin Show. Audi Westchester. Lease a new 2025 Audi A3 Quattro for only $439 a month, or a new 2025 Audi A5 Sportback for only $529 a month. All you need is $2,500 down, plus taxes and registration fees, to lease the new 2025 Audi A3 Quattro or Audi A5 Sportback, 36 months, 7,500 miles. And for what I understand, this incentive goes away by the end of the month. The end of the month, as we do this show live, is coming very, very quickly. Stop by Audi Westchester, 14. You'll have fun. A lot of new vehicles have come into the dealership. 1421 Wilmington Pike. It's fun looking for a car, and the people you'll have fun with. You have some coffee, have some snacks. The Audi new 2025 A3, $439 a month, or the A5 Sportback, $529 a month. AudiWestchester.com. You want to take care of your property and have fun in the summertime. You want to have fun all the time. You want your property to look nice. Landscaping I've had done by Piazza Property Pros, do an unbelievably sensational job, but they can build a pool for you. I already had a pool, but They can build a pool for you, and you might not get it ready by the end of this summer, but you'll have it ready for next year. So don't waste time. Get it done. Don't waste time. They are experts for 25 years, 25 years of experience. They don't subcontract, whether it's pool maintenance, landscaping, whatever you need on your property, fencing, they can do it. Piazza Property Pros, and they'll work within your budget. Here's a number 610 566 2608. Call for a free consultation 566, that's 610 566 2608, or check out piazzaoutdoor.com. All right. I'm going to have the question so you can win the Chickies and Pete's gift certificate. But first, there's a couple of things I really got to talk about here. Bryce Harper. Come on, Bryce. You know, by the way, the Phillies, as we speak, made a trade for a closer from what's it, Duhan from Minnesota. The Mets made a trade for a closer as well from the Cardinals. But so the Phillies, I don't know if that's enough. I just don't know that that's enough. You know, I see. Well, I see. Does Stillwell think Bitcoin is a good investment? Well, call Jeff Stillwell. You had the number. All right. So here's the deal. Bryce Harper was so disrespectful. Who the hell does he think he is? The commissioner comes around to talk to different teams, and you've probably seen this story. Rob Manfred. Whether you like Rob Manfred or not, whether you like what he's done, and I don't like some of the things. I think the time between pitches is good. I think to speed up the game is good. I don't like dummy runner at second base. I don't like enlarging the bases. I don't like changing the game like that. But whatever the case may be, show respect. He is the commissioner of baseball. So now, knowing that baseball is the only professional league, professional of the four major sports, that doesn't have a salary cap. Apparently, he alluded to that in the conversation that at some point, I guess they might have to do a salary cap. You know, Bryce Harper, who's a mouthpiece, a total mouthpiece for his agent, Scott Boras, who doesn't want that because he wants to sign these ridiculous contracts of players that never achieve what they should achieve. I mean, he wanted Bryce Harper to have a 13-year contract, which is not good for Bryce Harper because he wanted the largest contract in baseball, $330 million, which for 5 minutes was the largest contract until Mike Trout signed at $450 million. But so he extended the years to make the contract better. So, you know, all that nonsense where they talked about the beginning of the year, and Scott Boras didn't interject, but it kind of got out there because of Scott Boras. Well, he should get an extension. He had 7 years left. What are you talking? You shouldn't have signed. You should have signed maybe a 6 or 7 year contract, and then you would have had a valid argument for extension. But it's ridiculous. But Bryce Harper, to tell the commissioner to get the bleep out, I won't say what he said, to get and he used the 4-letter word, to get the bleep out. Who are you? Who are you? Just listen. You don't like a salary cap? Talk to your players association. Don't try to demean the commissioner. Totally out of line. And I'm not the only one that says this. Totally disrespectful. Who do you think you are? Really, who do you think? Just because you can tell the owner when you want a player to get this player, and you tell the team, I want to play first base, and you go play first base. Hey, listen, that's within the product of the team. And if the owner and the general manager agree that, that's fine. But you shouldn't have gone after the commissioner. That's number one. Number two, and I'm going to say something about Joel Embiid. The gambling by professional players, it's disgraceful. They got the last guy was the guy from Cleveland, the closer from Cleveland. You're making all this money. What do you have to bet on baseball games for? So you have something to do with the outcome of a game. You throw, they're betting on innings and pitches, and it's they're going to catch you. They're going to catch you. These players are so stupid. Gambling, they got to find a way. Hey, listen, I know people like to bet games and like to gamble. Gambling is it's going to hurt a lot of people. By the way, as I said that, Mark, you got to within your means. Mark Lawrence is going to join us every Saturday, and I'm going to probably have one on Saturday to kind of give a little preemptive look at football this year. So those guys are idiots. All right, listen to this, and I'm going to end it after this with the question from Merrill Reese that Merrill Reese said. Joel Embiid. The 76ers are enablers of Joel Embiid being lazy, being all about himself, being the choir boy. I mean, being everything you don't want. He shouldn't be bigger than the rest of the team. He shouldn't be bigger, and they've made him bigger. All right. Here's two things that I have learned. Joel Embiid has his own nutritionist slash chef to come to his house, supplied by the 76ers. Now, their facility, if players want to come in 24 hours, there will be a chef there if you want to eat 24 hours in any time in the 24 hours. But he can't go to the facility in Camden. He has to have one come home. The therapist to help him rehab. And I don't think he's going to be ready by the start of the season. I see somebody say, be nice to Embiid. He's trying to be the best with a crap organization. Let me tell you, that's KZ 199, whatever. You're wrong. He's not trying to be the best. He's trying to be, now that he got his money, he'll do what he wants to do. But the therapist that gives him therapy, he has to come to his house. Everybody else has to go to the facility. The therapist has to come to Embiid's house. You know, at the Olympics, and I found this out, Steve Kerr wasn't a big fan of his once he got there because he wasn't happy with the minutes he was playing. He wanted to go home. They had to talk him out of going home from the Olympics. How disgraceful is that? Oh, it's just, he's all about himself. Doesn't listen to the coach. Doesn't play hard all the time. Doesn't play for his teammates. He's all about himself. Hey, listen, is he a talented player? Absolutely, he's a talented player when he wants to be. But he's hurt all the time, and that's affected it. That's changed everything. But he won his championship with the gold medal, and he won his MVP. So it's just Joel Embiid has his MVP, gold medal, and money. He is done. You're right, Mark. You're absolutely right. So I had to put that out there. All right, here's the question. Here's the question, something Merrill Reese said. And if you answer this correctly, and with your correct answer, if you're selected at random from the correct entries, submit it to my website at howardeskin.com. The question is, what is the most memorable game of Merrill Reese's broadcasting career, excluding, and I'll give you a hint, excluding Super Bowls? Excluding Super Bowls, what is the most memorable moment in Merrill Reese's career? And if you answer it correctly, out of the correct entries, we'll take somebody to win the gift certificate to Chickies and Pete's. All right, let me read some of these comments before we go. Jojo wants to get his Happy Meals, okay? He's injured. Don't use that as an excuse. Does Jojo's chef make him Shirley Temples from Chick-fil-A? I don't know. Another one, Mark is right. Embiid has his MVP, gold medal, and money. He's done. Scott says Joel Embiid is immature. Yeah, he is. It should be bigger than the rest of the team. He's literally the reason the Sixers make the playoffs every year. Well, that's fine. If they didn't have him, everybody makes the playoffs. Hey, David, I'm going to respond to you. David Kitchens, and I'm going to call you out for who you are. Breaking news, Howard Eskin dislikes Joel Embiid. No, I don't dislike him as a person. There's other things I could say that show that he's not always a good guy. And I'm not going to get into those because I was told those in confidence. But he doesn't do what's best for the team. He doesn't do what's best for the team. And that's the bottom line. Phillies made a trade. They're going to get a relief pitcher. The trade deadline is July 31st, so they still have more time. But here is what I'm going to tell you what's disgraceful about the Phillies. All right. They lose 2 out of 3 to the second worst team in baseball. They lost 2 out of 3 to the White Sox. They lost 2 out of 3. It's just they lost 9-3 in the final game. They lost the first. It's just, well, Tyrone Walker stinks, but he only gave up 2 runs in 5 innings. But Lazar was, but let me. Bryce Harper is not. He's hitting 266. He got a hit, like big deal. Phillies had one home run, and that was by Brad Marsh. You're not going to win many games like that. It's a joke. It's not. Let me just check something here. They were only down. They were up 2-1 at one point in the game, and it was 2-2 in the fourth. And then the White Sox scored 7 runs in the seventh inning. I mean, they lost 2 out of 3 to the White Sox, the second worst team in baseball. That's not good. All right, Saturday morning. Lot to talk about. It's going to be you and me Saturday morning, as we're trying to do now, because people want that, and I'm going to try to help you out with that. And I'm probably going to have Mark Lawrence on. I'm probably going to have Mark Lawrence on to just give a forerunner of football. Let me just touch on a couple of comments here. Who's the owner of the Phillies? It's John Middleton. And what John Middleton worries about is the Phillies winning the World Series, which is fine, but he worries about it. And he said this publicly, for his legacy. His legacy. I don't want to hear about his legacy. It's all about the legacy is the players. The championship is for the team. It's just whatever. All right. Thanks for joining the show. Thanks to Merrill Reese. Thanks to everybody. We'll be back on Saturday morning live, but you can watch this show at any time. With Merrill Reese was terrific. You can watch it. You can go to all the social media platforms, but it's probably easier to find on YouTube. You subscribe to YouTube, and when I'm doing the show live, it notifies you. Thank you to everybody. Thanks to everybody. We'll see you on Saturday morning at 8 o'clock, but you'll probably see me at other times when you're watching the show. Have a great day.